natural minerals and substances floating around in it, little bugs and critters.
The material, the chlorine and the cleaning solutions that they put in the tap water to make it all right for us, plants don't like that. It takes all organisms out of it, and you're putting just wet stuff on there. There is nothing in there for them.
That's true.
Plants only take intake in a certain pH balance. If your pH isn't right, your plants won't intake the microorganisms that are in the dirt.
So you use bottled water. What are you saying? What's the final point that we're supposed to take away here?
Okay, well, there's kind of a turmoil. A lot of people use reverse osmosis water. I believe that reverse osmosis water, which is a technique of cleaning the water through a really fine bladder that takes everything out of it, is too much. You take everything out of it. Then you have to add everything back in, and then your plants are only getting what you add. So unless you add in an exact recipe of all 17 elements needed for a marijuana plant to survive, you're not going to get a well-balanced, perfect plant. Plants are not made to grow like that. They're just made to grow out of the dirt. God wasn't using hydroponics when he put them here.
And you can't beat the sun as far as energy source.
Right. Well, 80% nutrients comes from the sun. That's why I go with induction lighting. It's really cool stuff. It's like a fluorescent.
So because the sun's not putting out, you go with the induction bulbs.
Okay, that doesn't sound right. No, I have 2 different grows. I'm growing everywhere. I have so many grows I can't even keep track of them right now because I set people up and they call me for years on end of what's doing this and what's doing that and what's doing this. So right now I'm starting to move into automated systems so that I can see everybody's system on my computer and I can basically grow from my house.
Oh, so you have
an app. We've got a lot
You're going to have like an app where you can sit at home on a TV screen, monitor multiple grows, and make adjustments automatically because it's going to be automatic, like watering, and I don't know what else would go into.
Well, you got your pH. We got sensors that go into the dirt, so they monitor constant pH.
Absolutely.
Of the dirt. They got pH sensors in the water.
pH, just like the commercials with the women's deodorant. You got to keep your pH balanced.
Exactly. Everything has a pH.
What does pH mean? Can you explain what the hell you're talking about? What is pH?
It's the acidity of the dirt.
Of the dirt or the water?
Everything. Okay.
Of whatever you're putting into the plant.
Your water, you don't want a real high pH because it'll change your dirt. You want to always have your dirt right at about the same pH.
So too much acid will kill.
Too much acid or not enough acid will not allow your plants to function properly. It's like having a car and putting like gas with water in it. You're going to get sputters and chokes, and your plant's going to do that. As the water sucks up out there and all of a sudden it sucks up bad water, it's going to go and it's going to have a branch that falls over.
So in the sense that both gas and water are 2 liquids, only one of those liquids actually carries the nutrition to power and energize.
In my class, I go through all the nutrient charts. We actually have a chart that shows high levels of pH and low levels of pH. It's real simple. Plants don't take in the nutrients they need if the pH is too high or too low.
Like people, we need to be in balance.
Right.
All right, that's
and
good.
It's a real simple. It's a real simple chart that you can look at and see right between 6 and 7 is a decent place to stay with your pH.
All right.
It's a really cool chart, and if you go to my website, you can check out the chart.
All right. Give out your website. What's your website?
All right, it's HMO Plus with 2 S's.com.
That's PLUSS.
That's right. HMOPLUSS.com, and you can come check it out. We're putting it together.
Are you on any social media? Any Facebook, Twitter?
My wife does all that, and she's going to have us all loaded up everywhere.
So she's helping out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's talk very quickly before we wrap this conversation up about the business side of it. We learned about what your business is, what you do.
Did we?
Yeah. I think you just spent the last 20 or so minutes talking about your expertise in growing and
it's what I do with everybody I talk to. I just end up.
Yeah, I think we got very well educated that you're a grower and you assist people in growing and getting their grows up and going and helping them out. And you have the tech support and everything else. How did you actually get the physical business here in Colorado? Did you register and print out a business card and you were on your way?
Well, there's a lot of things a lot of different businesses that are happening right now in the cannabis industry. And I decided that, I really wasn't into selling weed. Never been into that. I got a lot of friends and we hang out a lot, but I've never been really into having to deal with all that. Never been in the cannabis industry more than myself. But now that I've kind of just been drug into it by...
Was that a pun? Drugged into it?
Well, not really, but
okay. Continue then.
It's just it was people asking me why, how come it was like this? Why do we need for this? What are these that got me here? I just answered all the questions, I guess.
Yeah. So like many people, you kind of fell into it. I talk about this a lot to people about entrepreneurism. A lot of people, like myself, are not entrepreneurs by choice. We're kind of entrepreneurs by circumstance, by life, being unemployable, working in industries that don't have a lot of work available. And like myself, I had to find my own path to finding different jobs and businesses because corporate America wasn't accepting me.
Sure.
So I didn't become an entrepreneur with the spirit of coming out of high school to start my own gig. I actually wanted to work for corporations.
Sure.
But they didn't want me.
Right.
So what else was I going to do? I had to go out and start my own, and I found it easiest through the path of marketing and sales to branch off and find my own. Where did you take your path? Because it sounds like you might also be a accidental entrepreneur, maybe one not by choice but by circumstance.
Well, a lot of it took 11 years to be an electrician. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of training involved, a lot of hard days, a lot of digging ditches.
It's like a good Bruce Springsteen song or John Mellencamp song.
And it's hard. Every day at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're expected, somebody else expects you there, and you gotta do it. You can't take a break. You gotta jam all day, and it's a tough life. I decided after about the third year that that's not what I wanted to do. It only took me another 7 or 8 to figure out how not to do that. And it was basically by working harder. Because then I opened my own company, Joe's Handy Services. Just did the same thing, but under my own set of rules. Just from having a lot of friends and always been in the cannabis, I just met a lot of folks that were into growing and needed the knowledge to do it. And it's funny because it's something I just picked up when I was a kid, growing in Costa Rica. It's always been so illegal that it's just a back burner thing. It's not, nobody ever knew about my grows.
Right.
I had family members that come over my house all the time, and nobody knew about my grows. Except for I always had really good pot. So I had a lot of friends that liked to hang out. Where I was getting it was, a different story, but they didn't need to know that, and that's how you stay safe. That's how I've been safe for all these years, is don't let anybody know.
Right.
And then just kind of moved into that, after I tell a few here, and then, I used to grow pot back in the day, and this is what we used to do, and it was never something that I'm doing because, it's not something everybody talks about. Every pot smoker knows it's not something that you talk about.
That's very interesting you bring that up because literally everything has to change now. We almost have to go completely in the face of that because to make it an industry, we have to talk about it. We have to open stores and organizations and talk about it publicly, talk about the idea of public use and bars, talk about it in the sense of, hey, what do you do? Hey, I'm an accountant for so-and-so
Sure.
pot LLC.
Right.
We have to stop calling it pot for one. Because pot signifies something that happened in the 60s and 70s with the dopies and the stoners and the hippies.
I had a lot of
dropouts.
controversy making up my business name because you don't want to be rolling around with a big truck saying that we install pot rooms or grow rooms because nobody wants their neighbors to know.
Right.
We came up with HMO Plus. It's a horticulture management organization. First of all, not a lot of people know that horticulture just means farming stuff.
Well, I think, even if you don't know the actual Latin base, I think you can still pick up that it has something to do with growing.
Like I said before, you would be surprised who wants to grow pot.
Well, I'm sure everybody that uses would want to grow because nobody really wants to pay for it. It needs to be something you can consume in abundance without it affecting a minimum wage worker's salary.
I get a lot of folks that have a medical card and don't know what to do with it. They go to the dispensary and they now want to try growing. First thing I ask them is, what is your ailment? Are you smoking it because you just like smoking it? Because that's why I smoke it. I've got a few ailments that it definitely helps, but I've been smoking it so long that it's really not an ailment anymore. I believe that when you smoke and the CBDs go into your brain and your blood system, that they attach onto your neurons and repair anything that's wrong. And that's why they are so helpful, because they are nothing more than an assistant to what you already have inside your body. Okay, I believe that God put it on there to fix all his mistakes that he made out there in minor things like cancer. There's thousands of different things that cannabis can do for you, including oils and ropes and clothes. And should I have a whole list around here? So, it's on my website. It's on my website. You can go there and see over 1,000 different things that you can literally make with cannabis. If you've never tried growing hemp yet, that's something else I'd like to look into, doing some major farming.
As we've talked about with a number of people, and we're going to have interviews with people who are trying to grow hemp, there's a whole industry. We've talked about the idea of the 420 businesses, finding 420 different businesses, not the same, not like is there 400 dispensaries. No, that's one business. If you're a dispensary, that's one business.
Sure,
there may be 500 some of those. You know, if you're a head shop, that's another business. If you're a grower, we're going to find 420 and then get at least 10 to 100 people employed in each of those and employ multi-thousands of people and bring unemployment down to small numbers.
You asked me a few minutes ago how I opened my business. I decided that, my dad told me a long time ago, he says, you got to watch because it's not always the ones that went out to find the gold that made it rich. Matter of fact, most of them died. They all needed one thing, which was a shovel. And the guy selling the shovel always made money. I got a family to support, but I will definitely show somebody how to grow cannabis if they would like me to, and I would definitely believe in everything that I preach.
That's very good. The shovel maker and seller is the equivalent to the banker. Where do you take the gold once you get it? Where do you spend the money? Anybody that's on the receiving end of the money is in a better business than the individual actually looking for the gem, right? Because looking for the gem requires all the investment up front, all the risk, the potential of payoff, but more than likely you're going to die out in the mountains somewhere cold and shivering with a piece of a gold nugget between your fingers.
Here's something funny. Here in Colorado, they recently legalized for recreational use the marijuana.
Yeah, the whole show's based on that. Everybody
It's funny because most grand openings to things have discounted stuff. It seems that didn't work that way thus far.
They're selling Ace at $50 and up, plus the 25% tax that goes on that. It's ridiculous because the people that are paying for this kind of one-time occurrence.
It seems like that.
There will be tourists, an increase of tourists, because there's a niche now in the market that exists that allows people to actually create tourist businesses, agencies, to bring people from out of state, pass a weekend. They'll supply you with the weed and the hotel and the driver and the food.
As a construction, I used to give bids all the time, and it's just like when you bid a job, you feel like it's in there. If somebody says, "Oh, right, $1,500, that's a good price, I'll do that." Well, then it doesn't matter if you're only giving them, if you're charging them $70 an hour, $150 an hour, because they're happy with the overall price.
All right, don't bring up bidding. All right, so let's talk about your ridiculous marketing strategies for a second. Because this is important, and it's important to talk about publicly. You mentioned, as you did, you come from a construction background of bidding.
Yes.
In bidding, would you please explain what a bid is?
If anybody's ever had any construction work done at their house or a project done that they've used outside contractors for, usually you'll call 5 outside contractors and say, come over and look at my house and tell me how much it's going to cost. And they'll come over and tell you, okay, one will say, I can do it for $1,500, and another guy will say, I can do it for $1,100.
Right.
And then you pick who you like.
Their price is based on what?
Well, the overall project usually.
So they're basically saying, well, I know this costs so-and-so and my labor costs so-and-so, and I can get this project done in so many hours. Therefore, I can bid this, mark it up X percentage, and this is our bid, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So a bid implies there's a beginning and ending project, that you're purchasing materials, that you have the pre-knowledge of what it costs, that you have the labor established of what it costs to do this. Is that correct?
Right.
So what you've done is your very first client of your business, and you give him a bidding type process when you have actually no knowledge of what it's going to actually cost to do this project, and it's an implied ongoing project, which means now you've locked yourself in to a low dollar bid for one, and a bid that's based on no real information of what it's going to cost to produce what he wants.
If I didn't have that knowledge, then I wouldn't be able to give him a bid because I would not know how much it costs.
Right.
You suggest they should be hourly.
Well, I said bid him not based on a final price, but bid him on a beginning of what it's going to take to maintain.
Why are we talking about this right now?
Well, because it's a business show, and it's a show that's supposed to help people understand how to grow their business.
I would not suggest people that do not have experience in the installation of equipment and management of projects to give a bid.
Right. It was suggested that because it's a business where you're basically a maintenance person, you should bid him that I am projecting this many hours per month to maintain what you are looking for. Here is my price per hour, and then everything will be plus cost of materials. So in a sense, now you're dividing the